National Guard soldiers and airmen from several states have been sent to Washington, D.C. to ensure the President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. In Russia, a fire in a 9-story apartment building in Yekaterinburg killed 8 people, including a child. This Tuesday, India ordered the temporary suspension of 3 government-sponsored laws that triggered the protests of thousands of rural workers. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. In the United States, National Guard soldiers and airmen from several states have been sent to Washington, D.C. to ensure the safety of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. At least 10,000 National Guard troops from several states will be in place by Saturday. Officials said Monday that requests are coming in from the Secret Service, Park Police and Capitol Police for National Guard support, so the numbers are rapidly evolving. The inauguration will be held on the same risers in the same spot at the U.S. Capitol, where a violent pro-Trump mob descended last week. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy has said officials are considering allowing the Guard members to carry guns, but no decision has yet been made. In the U.S., an armed right-wing group is planning a major uprising in Washington, D.C. in the case that Donald Trump is removed from office using the 25th Amendment, according to a Federal Bureau of Investigation report. The FBI also received information the pro-Trump extremists are calling for a storm in buildings and courts of the state, federal and local governments leading up to the Joe Biden's inauguration. The news came when the U.S. House of Representatives filed impeachment articles against Donald Trump after the January 6 violent takeover of the U.S. Capitol. In that context, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, asked the Department of Homeland Security on Monday to strengthen the security around the Capitol in preparation for the presidential inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden. The assault by outgoing President Donald Trump supporters left 5 people dead, including a Capitol police officer. Since then, Bowser has insisted on the importance of opening an investigation into the police response, which was called into question after what happened. The majority leader of the U.S. House of Representatives, Steny Hoyer, has announced that the House will meet Wednesday to vote on impeaching President Trump. According to details from Hoyer's office, the House Majority Leader told members in caucus call that they should plan to return to Washington on Tuesday in order to consider the measure offered by Democratic Representative Jamie Raskin to push Trump out via the 25th Amendment with a vote at 7:30 p.m. at the earliest. The House will then meet at 9 p.m. on Wednesday to consider the articles of impeachment. Hoyer also assured members that there will be heightened security in and around the Capitol for Wednesday's impeachment vote, according to a source on the call. House Democrats formally introduced the resolution to impeach Trump this Monday, charging him with incitement of insurrection for his role in last week's deadly U.S. Capitol attack. The Trump administration has put Cuba back on the United States list of state sponsors of terrorism in a move that complicates plans by the incoming Biden administration to relax increased pressure on Havana. The designation was confirmed this Monday by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. The U.S. removed Cuba from its state sponsors of terrorism list in May 2015 after President Barack Obama's administration reached an agreement to restore relations with Cuba, including a plan to boost travel and trade between the two countries, much of which has been dismantled under the Trump administration. For the Biden administration to take Cuba back off the list will require that the State Department conduct a formal review, a process that could take several months. And Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez took to Twitter to condemn the recent decision of the U.S. government to redesignate Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. Rodriguez stressed that the move was hypocritical and cynical, coming from the Trump administration, and also noted that U.S. political opportunism is recognized by those who are honestly concerned about terrorism and its victims. The Venezuelan foreign minister also condemned the latest U.S. move against Cuba on Twitter, sharing a statement by the government that vigorously rejects the inclusion of the island on the unilateral list of state sponsors of terrorism. The statement notes that the United States is the country that has created and financed the largest number of terrorist groups over the last decades, as well as conducted systematic policies that amount to state terrorism. The statement calls on the incoming U.S. administration to cease the policies of sanctions and aggression against other nations. China on Tuesday expressed strong opposition to the U.S. sanctions and political suppression of Cuba in the name of counterterrorism.
China has always advocated for the international community to join hands and combat terrorism together, but firmly opposes the U.S. political suppression and economic sanctions against Cuba in the name of counterterrorism. We believe that the U.S. should develop normal state-to-state relations with Cuba on the basis of equality and mutual respect. It is in the fundamental interests of the two countries and peoples, and conducive to maintaining peace and stability in the Latin American region.
And the residents of the Cuban capital reacted to the news that President Donald Trump's outgoing administration had returned Cuba to the U.S. blacklist of state sponsors of terrorism.
My opinion as a Cuban is that the citizen who behaved like a child, Trump, no longer has a solution, and he has to hand over his weapons. He does not want to hand them over, and he wants to continue bothering our country.
What Trump has is a nightmare against Cuba. He will never lose a desire to attack Cuba even if he's dead. He's always going to have it with him that Cuba bothers him in all senses, and he's never going to escape from that nightmare. He would like to be the owner of the world, but he can't. He really can't, and Cuba for him is an obstacle, and it will be.
We're going to remember Trump as the 1932 cyclone that happened in Cuba. I think it was in Ciego de Ávila or Camagüey, in one of those areas.
Colombia's Proceedings Foundation Monday informed on the murder of forest guard and environmental leader Gonzalo Cardona in Valle del Cauca department. Cardona, who was the coordinator of Proaves Indian Parrot Reserve, was missing since January the 8th. According to his foundation, he was last seen in village of La Unión in southwestern Colombia. Local authorities have not made any statement about the activist's death, so the violent incidents remain unclear. However, Proaves assured that its forest guard was murdered for his environmental work. Since 1988, the forest guard was defender of the yellow-eared parrot, an endemic and threatened species that live in the Colombian Indian forest. On Monday, the Development and Peace Institute in The Paz reported that Cardona is the first environmental leader to be assassinated in 2021. Colombia was the deadliest country worldwide for environmentalists in 2019, according to Global Witness, when over 60 advocates were assassinated that year. And we'll go now to a short break. Follow us in Twitter at teleSUR English and Gladys teleSUR.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on teleSUR.
Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali analyzes the international media influence driven by the empire, acts as an analysis of political, economic and social life throughout Latin America through our stream and website in English. A critical space committed to truth to determine the conjuncture that moved the world today. The World Today. Mondays on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. Russian authorities said a fire in a 9-story apartment building in Yekaterinburg on Tuesday killed 8 people, including a child. 90 people, including 9 children, were evacuated due to the severe smoke. 9 emergency vehicles and 30 rescue team members attended to the scene. Emergency officials in the Sverdlovsk region said the cause of the fire in the residential building overnight remained unknown. According to preliminary data, the blaze started in an apartment on the 2nd floor and smoke quickly filled the building, making it impossible for many residents on upper floors to escape. Officials said the 8 residents who lost their lives were found in apartments on the 2nd, 5th and 9th floors.
Evacuation of people from the burning building. In total, 90 people have been evacuated, including 9 children.
Emergency workers in Madrid received their first dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine on Tuesday morning. Spain reported more than 61,000 new coronavirus infections since the last health ministry update on Friday and 401 confirmed fatalities. The country's top coronavirus experts said the sharp increase was a result of Christmas gatherings rather than the new virus variant identified in the UK. The Health Emergency Coordination Centre said the country has found 70 cases of the new variant. Spain so far registers over 2.1 million infections and more than 52,000 COVID-19 related fatalities since the pandemic began. And Belgian authorities on Tuesday said more people had died from the coronavirus since last March than at any other time in a year over the last century, including during Spanish flu and World War I.
We compare the number of deaths between the first and the second wave, we can see that 52% of the deaths happened during the second wave and 48% during the first wave. This made us go over a sad total of 20,000 deaths last Sunday due to the COVID pandemic. So 2020 is now the year with the highest mortality rate that Belgium has ever experienced since the Spanish flu and the end of the First World War in 1918. For 4 days now, we have seen a rise in infection rate, but figures of hospital admissions and deaths are still decreasing. There are several explanations for this increase of infection rate. The first one being that we now do a lot more tests than during the holiday period. We went from around 25,000 tests to now back to 40,000 tests per day.
And the European Union said Tuesday it had concluded exploratory talks with biotech company Valneva to secure millions of doses of any future coronavirus vaccine the French headquartered firm develops. The European Commission is managing vaccine contracts on behalf of the bloc's 27 member countries. The Commission said Europe's vaccine portfolio now involves 8 companies. The EU has sealed vaccine contracts for up to 2 billion doses, but only the Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna vaccines have been approved for use so far. Valneva is developing an inactivated virus vaccine, which involves the use of virus particles on bacteria that have been killed and can no longer cause disease. Most influenza vaccines are developed using this method. It is the only inactivated vaccine in clinical trials against COVID-19 in Europe.
Has concluded exploratory talks with the pharmaceutical company Valneva to purchase its potential vaccine against COVID-19. Under the envisaged contract, all EU member states could purchase up to 30 million doses with an option for an additional 30 million more. Today's finalization of the exploratory talks with Valneva complements our already broad portfolio of vaccines to be produced in Europe, and which includes contracts signed with AstraZeneca, with Sanofi GSK, Janssen Pharmaceutica, BioNTech Pfizer, CureVac and Moderna, and also exploratory talks which we finalized with Novavax. The Commission has...
Also, in the European Union, officials rule out Tuesday meeting U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is set to visit Belgium in his final trip abroad as U.S. top diplomat this week. Pompeo is scheduled to meet with NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg and Belgian Foreign Minister Sophie Wilms in Brussels on Wednesday and Thursday. When asked if Pompeo will meet his European Union counterpart, High Representative Josep Borrell, European Commission spokesperson Peter Stanos said the answer is no. This Tuesday, hundreds of workers from the Italian travel industry gathered in Rome's Piazza del Popolo, demanding that the government listen to their concerns. According to data provided by Italy's National Statistics Agency, Istat, foreign tourists in Italy dropped by 68.6% in 2020. Rome, Florence and Venice, which have registered an even higher drop of 73.2%. The tourism industry was excluded from the second government relief package, according to the Autonomous Movement for the Travel Agencies. Italy was the first country in Europe to get hit with the coronavirus and imposed a strict lockdown in the spring to try to contain it.
Had a drop of 100%. My agency has been closed since the 11th of March, just like all the other travel agencies. We are talking about tens of thousands of euros less of income. Maybe if we put all of us together, it is millions of euros in loss. We are asking to work, simply to work, to make health corridors that would allow our clients to travel. People want to travel.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us.
teleSUR English presents a weekly program to discuss the political, economic and social issues affecting the Caribbean community. We'll challenge stereotypes and unpack the diversity of the region through the analysis of unique cultures, religions and art. We Caribbean. Wednesdays, only on teleSUR. We share your feelings, exalt your accomplishments, and show your reality. Our approach is global and keeps us in tune with the peoples. Caribbean countries also get our signal. With enthusiasm, we will continue to broadcast for them. Because we are teleSUR, the news broadcaster from South America and the Caribbean.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR.
为了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study. Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Guide your body. Tuesdays, only on teleSUR.
Una travesía para descubrirnos. Buscamos conexiones perdidas.
No nos queda otra que luchar, porque no tenemos nada que perder.
Realmente es por todos.
Recorremos el mundo con Reportajes teleSUR.
Saturdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back. India's Supreme Court on Tuesday ordered the temporary suspension of 3 government-sponsored laws that triggered the protests of thousands of rural workers 47 days ago. The judge's decision attempts to unblock weeks of failed negotiations between the protesters who are demanding the repeal of the laws and the government, who has asked the courts to declare illegal the protest that has been blocking several of the entrance to New Delhi since November 26. The Supreme Court also ordered the formation of a committee of experts on agricultural issues to hear the parties, review the content of the laws, settle differences over the scope of the legislation, and guide the judges on a final decision. The 3 laws that unleash the farmers' anger, that regulate the agricultural market and abolish minimum selling prices, thus forcing farmers to negotiate the prices of their products with large companies that control the distribution chains. Malaysia declared a nationwide state of emergency Tuesday to fight a coronavirus surge that is overwhelming hospitals. The announcement comes a day after the Prime Minister introduced sweeping new curbs across much of the Southeast Asian nation, including the closure of most businesses, and warned the health system was at the breaking point. Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Snah agreed to declare an emergency until August the 1st, following a request from the Prime Minister in a Monday meeting. To this date, Malaysia registers more than 141,000 COVID-19 cases and 559 fatalities.
Yesterday, I met with His Majesty to present the advice of the Cabinet for His Majesty to come up with an emergency proclamation according to Article 151 of the Federal Constitution to declare an emergency for the entire Federation. COVID-19 infections are on the rise and show no signs of decline in the near future. Therefore, the government needs to have certain powers to ensure this outbreak can be curbed more effectively.
Let me assure you that the civilian government will continue to function. The emergency proclaimed by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is not a military coup, and curfew will not be enforced.
Indonesian Navy drivers searching the ocean floor for Tuesday recovered the flight data recorded from Sriwijaya Airjet that crashed into the Java Sea with 62 people on board. The device is expected to help investigators determine what caused the Boeing 737-500 plane to nosedive into the ocean in heavy rain shortly after taking off from Jakarta on Saturday. A Navy top official said the black boxes were buried in seabed mud under tons of sharp objects in the plane's wreckage. At least 160 drivers were deployed Tuesday in the search. More than 3,600 rescued personnel, 13 helicopters, 54 large ships and 20 small boats are searching the area just north of Jakarta where Flight 182 crashed, and have found parts of the plane and human remains in the water at a depth of 23 meters. And also in Indonesia, on Tuesday, the nation received 15 million doses of the COVID-19 from China's Sinovac biotech. According to the Indonesian health minister, the vaccines arrive in the form of raw materials and will be processed by state-owned pharmaceutical company Bio Farma. Indonesia's Food and Drug Authority on Monday green-lighted emergency use of the COVID-19 vaccine produced by Sinovac. Vaccination of high-risk groups, healthcare workers and other civil servants using the vaccine, called CoronaVac, is expected to begin this week. This Tuesday, rescuers are seeking to free 22 Chinese workers trapped underground for more than 2 days following an explosion in a gold mine in the country's east. Some 300 rescuers were seeking to clear obstructions to reach the workers, whose condition remains unclear. The mine in eastern province of Shandong was under construction at the time of the explosion. The cause of the blast has not been announced. China's mining industry, focused on coal, used to be the world's deadliest. However, safety improved dramatically after authorities overhauled the industry starting about 15 years ago, boosting supervision and closing most smaller, more dangerous operations. And Tokyo 2020 organizers said preparations for the Olympic Games are still underway, even after more than 80% of the people in Japan who were surveyed in 2 polls said the Tokyo Olympics should be cancelled or postponed. The polls were conducted by the Japanese news agency Kyodo at TBS. The results are bad news for Tokyo organizers and the International Olympic Committee, as they continue to say the postponed Olympics will open on July 23rd. Tokyo is battling a surge of COVID-19 cases that prompted the national government last week to call a state of emergency. In declaring the emergency, Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga said he was confident the Olympics will be held. Japan has controlled the virus relatively well, but the surge has heightened skepticism about the need for the Olympics and the danger of potentially bringing 15,000 Olympic and Paralympic athletes into the country.
If I get caught up in my thoughts, flinch, or get a little lost in my mind, it affects everything. We have to proceed preparation as planned. There is no other way to respond to that. Spring will always come. Morning will surely come, even on long nights. Believing in that, to give joy and hope to many people. We will do our best until the end.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.